Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. Today we are talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars continuing to prepare for their Week 15 matchup with the New York Jets. Some more news on the Trevor Lawrence front. He was, drumroll please, completely active on Thursday. As we said, Wednesdays are normally the lighter practices, so it would be more important what he does Thursday and Friday. He was full participant on Thursday in the media viewing portion of practice. I put a picture on Twitter. High quality, I know, but from what I could see, observing Trevor Lawrence move around during individual drills at practice, I didn't see anything noticeable on his ankle. That would indicate some kind of support. Doesn't mean it wasn't there. I didn't. It wasn't like, his cleats were severely taped up or something like that, or he had a sleeve on his leg, or any kind of scenarios where somebody might be wearing something during practice. That wasn't the case. I didn't notice anything. And then, it's just individual drills. It's nothing like, a live setting. But I thought he moved around fine. I thought he looked like Trevor. I thought, if I didn't know that he was on the injury report with an ankle injury, I wouldn't know something was wrong with him. So what most likely scenario is, he's probably sore, naturally happens during the course of an NFL season. But, as a result of soreness listed on the injury report, if it, does impact practice time at all, which naturally I think during the Wednesday lighter practice, that's more of a walkthrough. Maybe you do decrease his reps, etc. And as a result, have to report it on the injury report. So it definitely appears that Trevor Lawrence, all systems go for Sunday against the Jets. And I think that when you look at the Jets, you look obviously at last 6 or 7 games. That's when they started to find some success. They had an extraordinarily slow start to the season. I believe we're the last team to pick up a win this season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there are definitely some good aspects of their team. They absolutely, are physical, play hard, do some things well. But when you're a team just selling, off your core pieces and ripping the franchise up from its roots by trading Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, obviously there's some talent questions. They still, absolutely have some talented players. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, both are offensive tackles. I'm a big fan of Quincy Williams. I've, been a fan of. He, one of the guys who, early in my, time covering the team, I covered him his rookie season. He's surpassed everything that, I thought, and I think what a lot of people thought, and, he's been a fantastic player throughout his career. And, obviously, Will McDonald, good player. Harrison Phillips, does some nice things, but the Jaguars have the talent advantage on paper. And it's a similar thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago with the Tennessee Titans. What the Jaguars have to do is simply take care of business. Be the better team that they are. Because on paper, they're a more talented team than the Jets. You look, how each team is trending, especially, in recent weeks. For instance, the Jaguars' offense has especially been hot since the bye week. Well, since the Jaguars' bye week, I believe the Jets are like bottom 6 in EPA per play and bottom 10 in success rate against the pass. So not necessarily a defense that's really humming at the moment. I mean, as you can expect, you take away 2, cornerstone, legit blue chip talents, and that's what you get. But the Jets are obviously in this for the long-term build. Jaguars have definitely been there before. If this feels like for the Jets what kind of the 2020 games probably felt like for the Jaguars. You're just playing out the string, see which individual guys can perhaps improve. But ultimately, the Jets are thinking about the future. And that's where, like I said, the Jaguars have to prove that they're a team that can, really put their foot on the throat. And they've done that the last 2 weeks. They haven't let up. When Liam Cohen said Houston was good for them after the Colts win, maybe there was something to it. I mean, they still talk about it in the locker room, not like they don't talk about it in the sense of, they bemoan the blown lead and talk about it with regret or anything like that. They just they refer to the experience in terms of when they're acknowledging why they can't let up on teams. And I do think that's why you're seeing them. I mean, in 3 of the 4 games during this 4-game winning streak have been blowouts. I mean, they throttled the Chargers, dominated the Titans, dominated the Colts. The only team that's hung with them was the Arizona Cardinals, and Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over 4 times that game. So, and one of those times for a touchdown. And then even the first 3 quarters of the Texans game, up by 19 points against them, dominating them for 3 quarters. Obviously, don't get the job done, don't finish, but, I mean, just here are some numbers for the Jaguars. In the first 7 weeks, they were 22nd in EPA per play on offense. They're now 15th. They were 19th in success rate. They're now 14th. So it's not like it's a completely different dominant offense. And the reason why is because rushing has fallen from 8th to 13th, and success rate has fallen from 10th to 20th. But overall, I mean, you look at the passing offense, for example. The passing offense has gone up in EPA per play on dropbacks from 26th to 15th, and then from 23rd to 7th in success rate. I mean, just massive leaps by the passing game since the bye week. So you look at the Jaguars team that is getting right at the right time. They're hitting all cylinders. You want to see a team hit their stride at this time of the year, as opposed to we've seen the Jaguars do it in the middle of a season in 2023. I mean, we've seen it happen, time and time again in the NFL. And I think for the Jaguars right now, obviously the internal focus has to be the fact that they can't let anything get in the way of what that week's focus is. Because that's how you see a lot of games get lost in the NFL this time of the year, I believe. Teams kind of lose focus of, what they have directly in front of them. They think too far ahead. Maybe, for example, a team that wasn't focused on the task at hand, and a team that, maybe didn't have the maturity to handle a late playoff push. They'd see the 3-10 Jets on the schedule this week, and then the Denver Broncos next week. And they would potentially be thinking about that Broncos game right now, as opposed to having the attention fully and solely on the New York Jets like it has to be. So I think ultimately the Jaguars match up well against the Jets in a lot of ways. I mean, the Jaguars' defense has been even better since the bye. Just like the offense, the fact that they're getting better on both sides of the ball. I mean, even special teams. I mean, Cam Little hasn't missed a field goal since the bye week, I think says something. So, I mean, EPA per play on defense, they've gone from 14th to 6th. Success rate, they've gone from 16th to 7th. They've gone from 22nd in dropbacks in success rate to 10th. They've gone from 14th in rushing EPA per play to 7th. The only thing that they're down in is rushing success rate, and they're 8 in that now. They were top 3. Ultimately, it's a Jaguars team that has been very, very put together over these last 6 weeks, but especially over the last month. And during this 4-game winning streak, the Jaguars have shown that they can play complementary football. And I think that's what the message has to be this week against the Jets. Continue to play complementary football. Continue to let that momentum take you through another week. Continue to improve. Because I think if the Jaguars can keep improving all the way through. I mean, how much more improved are they going to be in a month when they get ready for the playoffs? That is the strength of where the Jaguars are right now. And it will be fascinating to see how they take advantage. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I've been your host and beat reporter since August 2019. As always, don't forget you can find our 100% free 24/7 Jaguars content on social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, at Jaguars on SI.